How Anita did the unthinkable even while she was still in love with her fiancé. Cheating is as old as humans. Some partners take it lightly while others go the extra mile to pay their cheating partners. This story talks about how two partners who loved themselves from the beginning eventually became strangers. The fiancé was doing his own thing while the fiancée was also doing her own thing. They were living under the same roof but they had a different ideology. Sit back, relax and enjoy this story. I met Chris when I traveled to London for holiday. It was the norm in my family then to always go on holiday towards the end of every year. In 2017, my dad decided that we should travel to London because my mom and I have not been to London before. Our holiday to London coincided with the time the London Derby was about to be played. We arrived in London on Thursday and the London Derby was to be played on Sunday. The City of London was very lively in anticipation of the London Derby between Chelsea Football Club and Arsenal Football Club. I asked my dad if that is how the streets of London are every time the London Derby was around the corner. My dad said there are many teams in London like Chelsea Football Club, Arsenal Football Club, Tottenham Football Club, and West Ham Football Club. He said these teams are all in the first tier of English football, which means they play each other regularly. He said there are other London teams in the second tier of English football too. He said none of the London derbies comes close to Arsenal versus Chelsea. He said the street will still witness more activities on Saturday and Sunday. The background of the teams that I heard from my dad made me fall in love with the city and the teams. I told my dad to book a ticket for all of us to watch the London Derby. I said I didn't want to miss any of the actions in the stadium because if the city is as lively as we saw, then the stadium will be more than what we were witnessing on the streets of London. My dad promised to book the ticket for the whole family when we settle in our hotel. We lodged into the Prime Hotel. My dad paid for 7 days because our holiday was supposed to last for 7 days. As soon as we settled down, I reminded my dad about the tickets. My dad asked me why I was eager to watch the match because he doesn't know me as a lover of football. I told him I wasn't much interested in the football itself, I am more interested in what will happen at the stadium. As soon as my dad booked the ticket, I went to my room while I left him and my mom in their room. I was very tired because of the long journey from the United States to London. While I lied on my bed, I could still hear the noise of the fans outside the hotel. I watched them through my window before I finally retired to my bed. I woke up the next day intending to tour the whole city. I went to my dad's room and I told him that he has to take me to major places around the City of London. My dad agreed to take me around the City of London. He said we should take our breakfast first. He said after taking our breakfast, we can rest a little bit before going out. I went back to my room to take my bath. After taking my bath, I joined my mom and dad in their room where we had breakfast. After breakfast, my dad called a taxi that would take us around the City of London. My dad bargained with the taxi man and he agreed to drive us for the whole day at the rate of $300. Emirates Stadium, which is the venue of the London Derby, was the first place we visited. We were taken through various buildings in the stadium. We were taken to the dressing room of the players, the training pitch, the volleyball pitch, and the trophy cabinet. We left the Emirates Stadium and moved to Stamford Bridge, which is the stadium of Chelsea Football Club. We were taken through the stadium's building including the training pitch, the volleyball pitch, the track and field stadium, and the trophy cabinet. Fortunately, the Chelsea Football Club players were having their final training session before the London Derby. So we stood there and watched them. After the training, we took pictures with some of the players and the coach. We left the Stamford Bridge Stadium and moved to the Tower of London. The Tower of London is one of the world's most famous buildings. We went through all the rooms in the building. From the Tower of London, we moved to the Emirate Airline cable car. The Emirate Airline cable car provides a stunning view of the city departing every 30 seconds from the Greenwich Peninsula and the Royal Docks. From the Emirate Airline cable, we moved to the London Transport Museum. The London Transport Museum hosts an exhibition connecting transport with the social and cultural history of London. We saw more than 80 vehicles spanning 200 years of London's history, including a Red Route Master bus and the world's first underground steam train. We ended our tour at the Warner Bros. Studio. At the Warner Bros. Studio, we saw first-hand sets, costumes, and props used in the Harry Potter films. We were taken into some of the film locations including the Great Hall, Dumbledore's office, and Hagrid's hut. After taking a tour of the Warner Bros. Studio, we entered into our taxi and headed back to our hotel. We arrived at our hotel at exactly 9:15 p.m. My dad paid the taxi driver and we went into our hotel room. Days passed by and we continued to enjoy our stay in London. On Saturday, which was a day before the showdown, Chelsea Football Club supporters and Arsenal Football Club supporters held a rally at different points in London. Chelsea supporters held their rally in front of Stamford Bridge while Arsenal fans held their own in front of Emirates Stadium. We joined Chelsea's rally because our hotel was closer to Stamford Bridge than Emirates Stadium. The D-Day arrived. The match was scheduled to hold at 2 p.m. but my dad told me that we have to prepare to leave the hotel by 10 or 11 a.m. because of the crowd that will be in front of the stadium. As soon as I heard that from my dad, I rushed to my room to take my bath while my dad entered his bathroom too. My mom went to the kitchen to prepare a light breakfast. By the time my dad and I finished taking our bath, breakfast was ready. My mom had already eaten her breakfast. She left breakfast on the table while she went to the bathroom to take her bath. By the time my mom finished taking her bath, my dad and I had finished eating breakfast. While we were taking our breakfast, my dad had already called the taxi driver that took us on tour. The taxi driver arrived at 10:25. He called my dad that he was already in front of our hotel. We left our room and joined him. On our way to the stadium, we met different people with different costumes on the road. Arsenal fans had red costumes while Chelsea fans had blue costumes. We arrived at the Emirates Stadium at exactly 11:15 a.m. A journey that was not more than 20 minutes became 45 minutes because of the number of people on the road. When we arrived at the Emirates Stadium, we joined a queue of more than 200 people. The attendants were checking everybody's ticket with a computer because they wanted to prevent forgery. After about an hour and 30 minutes, it got to our turn. My dad presented his ticket, my mom's ticket, and my ticket to the attendant for checking. It took the attendant more than 10 minutes to confirm our ticket. We gained access to the stadium at exactly 1 p.m. When we entered the stadium, we began another round of searches. Because of the population of fans in the stadium, it was difficult to find a seat. 10 minutes into our search, we finally got a seat close to a man. But we had a problem because the seats we got were 2 and we were 3. I raised my head a little bit and I saw a seat close to a guy. My mom and dad sat on the 2 seats while I went to the vacant seat that was close to the guy. The atmosphere in the stadium was electrifying. I was enjoying every bit of it. The atmosphere of the stadium is what I wanted to see and I was enjoying it. At exactly 3 p.m., the players came out for the warm-up. They were received by huge applause from fans of both teams. While I was shouting and cheering both teams, I noticed that the guy that was sitting close to me was looking at me. Every time our eyes met, he would look another way as if he was not looking at me. I was just smiling because I understood him perfectly. At exactly 3:20 a.m., the players returned to the dressing to fully prepare for the match. When the players walked back into the dressing room, the atmosphere of the stadium became a little bit relaxed. The noise from both fans went down a little bit. The guy that was sitting close to me felt that was the opportunity he needed to have a conversation with me. He finally summoned the courage to talk to me. He looked at me and said he has been enjoying how I have been cheering both teams. He asked me which of the teams that am I a fan of. I told him that I am not a fan of any of the team. He looked very surprised when he heard that. I told him that I am not even a football lover. I told him I had just come to the city with my family to have some fun. I told him that it was the mood of the city that drove me to the stadium. I told him how everywhere in the city was in a carnival mood when I arrived in London. I said it was the mood of the city that made me ask my dad what was happening, and he told me that was how the city usually comes to life when it's time for the London Derby. You could see the surprise on his face when I was talking. He asked for my name and I told him that my name is Anita. He told me that his name is Joseph. He asked me where I came from and I told him that I came all the from the United States with my family to have fun. Joseph smiled when I told him that I came from the United States. I saw the smile on his face which prompted me to ask why he was smiling. He said he is also from the United States. I asked him which state is he from and he said he lives in Alabama. I smiled also. I told him my family and I live in Georgia. I told him my family and I visit Alabama frequently because we have a family friend there. Joseph asked me when I will be returning to the United States. I told him that our holiday is supposed to last for 7 days and we have spent 4 days already. I said it means we will be going back to the United States in the next 3 days. Joseph said he came to London for a project and the project will last for 14 days. He said he will be returning to the United States after the completion of the project. While Joseph and I were having a conversation, the players began to walk onto the pitch. At that point, Joseph and I could not hear each other because the stadium has erupted. The noise was too much for us to hear ourselves. Joseph told me that we should enjoy the football because once the match begins, the noise will be louder than what we are hearing. 5 minutes after the players walked onto the pitch, the match began. Chelsea Football Club had the better possession in the 5 minutes. They looked threatening in front of the goal, but the Arsenal defense was resolute. 20 minutes into the match, Chelsea Football Club took the lead through Eden Hazard. The Chelsea Supporters Club took over the pitch. You could hear their noise loudly even though Arsenal Football Club was the home team. 45 minutes after, the referee blew the whistle for the end of the first half. While the players were walking down the tunnel, a lot of spectators also left their seats to get some refreshment. Joseph and I continued our conversation because the noise reduced drastically. Joseph sarcastically told me that we have only 15 minutes to talk because the players will back on the pitch after 15 minutes. Joseph said what we can talk about in 15 minutes. I told him that we cannot have any meaningful discussion in 15 minutes. He asked me for my cell phone number and I gave him to him. He asked me if we could see before I travel back to the United States. I told him I do not think it will be possible because, after the match, my parent and I will head back to our hotel. I said we can only be talking on the phone. I said if he returns to the United States after his project, we will have time to talk to each other. 15 minutes after the players left the pitch, they returned to the pitch for the second half. 12 minutes into the second half, Arsenal Football Club equalized through Theo Walcott. The home fans got their voice back. 84 minutes into the match, Arsenal got the winning through Theo Walcott again. The home fans were in a jubilant mood. The away stand became silent as they started sensing defeat. At exactly 95 minutes, the referee blew the whistle for the end of the match. Arsenal Football Club players and coaches came to the fans to celebrate with them. While the celebration was going on, Joseph told me he was leaving. He said he has something important to attend to. My father also decided that we have had enough fun. He said we should return to our hotel to rest. He said the taxi driver was already waiting for us outside. Exiting the stadium was not easy because of the crowd. After about 10 minutes of finding our way, we were able to exit the stadium and join our taxi. Getting to our hotel was also not easy because there were a lot of cars on the road. After about 1.5 hours on the road, we arrived at our hotel. We were all tired, so we all went into our rooms. The next morning we were in our rooms throughout the day. We didn't go out like we used to. We spent the rest of our holidays most in our hotel room. A day before our departure day, I did some laundry with my mom. We packed our entire luggage and prepared for our departure the next day. My dad woke me up at exactly 5 a.m. on Sunday because he didn't want us to miss our flight. We all took our baths and headed to the airport in our usual taxi. We got to Georgia at exactly 2 p.m. By 3 p.m., we were in our house. When we got home, Joseph was the first person I called. I told him that we just landed in the United States. Joseph was very happy for me. He said he will also be in the United States in a few days. He said he can't wait to meet me when he lands in the United States. I graduated from high school a few weeks before we traveled to London. I have been at home ever since I graduated because the admission into college was not out. I approached my father that night and I told him I want to learn how to play volleyball. I told him rather than sitting at home doing nothing, engaging myself in volleyball will be better. My father accepted and he told me that he will take me to a volleyball center for registration the next day. My father woke me very early the next day because he wanted to take me to the volleyball center on his way to work. I took my bath very quickly and I joined him in the car. We got to the volleyball center around 7 a.m. We met a lot of volleyball players who came for training. We were directed to the office of the management for official registration. After registration, I was given all the kits I need for training. I joined other ladies on the pitchy while my dad drove to his office. The training ended at 11 a.m. After the training, the coach addressed all players. He introduced me to all of them. He said he wants me to put a lot of effort into becoming a fantastic volleyball player. After the address, I left the center and headed home. As soon as I got home, I took my bath and I went straight into the kitchen because I was very hungry. Every morning, I joined my father in his car to the center. The population of players kept increasing every day, which gave room for competition. A few weeks into my training, I started getting a lot of recognition. After training on Friday, we were told that we have a volleyball match against Titan Queens on Sunday. The coach said we should all listen to the names of that have been selected for the match. When the coach mentioned my name, I was very happy. When I got home, I told my mom that she has to come and watch. I called my dad on phone and I told him too. They all agreed to come and watch me play volleyball. I was the first person to wake up on Sunday. We were told to come for early morning training before the match. I went to my parents' door to inform them of my movement. I told them that the match was slated for 11 a.m., therefore, they should wait till 10:30 a.m. before leaving the house. I waved them goodbye and I left. When I got to the center, the coach and some players were already there. We did our training before we headed to the team hotel to rest. At exactly 10 a.m., we left the team hotel and returned to the center. The opposing team arrived around that time too, so we had a familiarity walk with them. At exactly 10:45, we went back into the dressing room to change into our jerseys. 5 minutes after, we were told to walk onto the pitch by the referee. As I was walking onto the court, I saw my mom and my dad in the stand. We won the match by a wide margin. I played the best game of my life. At the end of the match, I was voted for as the best player. My parents were very happy with my performance. I took pictures with them, my coach, my teammates, and the players from the opposing team. On our way home, My dad could not contain his joy. He said he was happy with how proud I made him. He said I should take my volleyball training seriously. He said I should not hesitate to come to him if I need anything that will enhance my volleyball training. When we got home, my dad told my mom to prepare a very delicious meal for dinner. He said he wants her to prepare a meal that we will all enjoy. He ordered expensive wines from the local mall near us. Our house was in a carnival mood that day. We ate to our satisfaction. We took some of the food to our neighbors. I went to bed that night feeling like a queen. Not even my graduation from high school got me this emotional. I called Joseph and informed him of how I made everybody in my home proud today. Joseph was very happy too. He said he will be in the United States the next Sunday. He said what I did calls for celebration and we will celebrate it together. 7 days after, Joseph was back in the United States. I was the first person he called when he arrived. He told me how stressful his journey was and how tiring his project was. After talking about his trip and his project, Joseph said he will like us to meet on Tuesday. He said he would have chosen Monday, but he needs a lot of rest. I obliged his request. Around 7 p.m. on Monday, I called Joseph to ask him where we were going to meet and the time we are to meet. He said we should meet at his house by noon. I had the intention of skipping my volleyball practice before I called him, but his response changed my mind. If we were to meet by noon, then I can go to my volleyball training before going to see him. I woke up at exactly 6 a.m. on Tuesday. I joined my father in his car. He dropped me at my training center while he drove to work. Normally, our training usually ends by 11 a.m., but I told my coach that I have an important thing to attend to. Therefore, I have to live by 10 a.m. I left training at 10:00 a.m. and I got home by 10:30 a.m. I took my bath and I came to the kitchen to eat my breakfast. After taking my breakfast, I called Joseph and I told him I was on my way. I left the house at 11 a.m. I was fortunate to get a taxi in front of our house. The taxi dropped me in front of Joseph's house around 11:50 a.m. When the taxi dropped me, I called Joseph and I told him to come and pick me in front of his house. A few seconds later, Joseph came out and we both entered his house. Joseph's apartment was very nice. He had the latest electronics in his house. I told him that I like what I saw. I said that is how a house should be. Joseph was just smiling at me. He asked me what he should offer me. I told him that I ate before I left my house, because I didn't want him to have a feeling that I don't want to take anything in his house. I told him to give me a bottle of wine. He went to the fridge and brought the bottle of wine. He dropped the wine in front of me and sat close to me on the couch. I was wondering why he sat very close to me. Joseph said he has not been himself since the first day he saw me at the Emirates Stadium. He said since then, he has been thinking of sitting close to me again like he is doing presently. Joseph said he loves me and he wants to spend the rest of his life with me. He didn't give me a chance to talk. Before I could say anything, Joseph's hands were already in my cloth and his lips were on my lips. He was kissing me with his lips while he was using his hand to caress every part of my body. He was touching me where I wanted to be touched. I kept moaning as his hands were going through all my body. When he noticed that I could not take him anymore, he carried me to his bed and we continued from where we stopped. We had great sex which lasted for more than 2 hours. After the sex, both of us entered the bathroom to freshen up. After taking my bath, I entered the kitchen to cook what we were going to eat because we were all hungry. In 30 minutes, the food was ready. We ate together. The kissing continued while we were eating, but I told Joseph that we cannot have sex again that day. I left Joseph's house at around 5 p.m. I got home feeling excited because it has been a long time since I had sex. The last time I had sex was when I was in high school. The sex I had then cannot be compared to what Joseph gave me. It was the best sex I have ever had. Days went by and our relationship became stronger. We began to do a lot of things together. I go to his house regularly and he comes to our house regularly too. Everybody in the neighborhood began to see us together frequently. Those we were hiding our relationship for when we started now know that something is happening between the both of us. 6 months into our relationship, Joseph invited me to the cinema. He said he wants me to watch the new movie released by Van Damme. When we got to the cinema, we met a lot of people who came to watch the movie. The movie was making waves, so everybody was trooping to the cinema to watch the movie. When we finally got our ticket, I was about to enter the hall when Joseph held my hand tightly. The next thing I saw was that Joseph was on the ground with his 2 knees. I was still wondering what Joseph was trying to do until I saw a ring in his hand. Joseph proposed to me in front of the crowd. I was speechless because everybody in the cinema was looking at us. I became shy and I didn't know what to say. I summoned the courage to say yes to his proposal. After the proposal, we went into the hall to watch the movie. After watching the movie, I rushed home to show my mom the ring Joseph gave me. My mom could not believe it. She was so happy for me. She prayed for me and encouraged me to do the right things. 1 month after Joseph proposed to me, I thought it was right for me to move to his apartment and start staying with him since we will be getting married soon. I told my parents about it and they agreed. I called Joseph and told him about it and he agreed too. Since everybody was in support of what I wanted to do, I felt it was right for me to do it. I finally moved into Joseph's apartment and we started living like couples. We did almost everything together. The love we had for each other became stronger than it was before. A few weeks after I moved in with Joseph, I started noticing strange behaviors from him. He started doing things that he did not used to do before. He started coming home late. Sometimes he won't even come home at all. He started ignoring my calls when he is at work and he doesn't eat when he gets home. One day, he came back from work looking very tired. I confronted him with all the questions I have wanted to ask him. He listened to all my questions but he didn't give any tangible answer. After that, he told me he is going on an official trip to Spain. He said he will be there for 2 weeks. At that point, I knew that Joseph has started seeing someone else. I started blaming myself for moving in with him. I thought we could have been better if we weren't staying together. If I had stayed back, I wouldn't know if he is cheating or not. At least, my mind will be at rest. On the day of the official trip he claimed he was going, I overheard him talking to a lady on the phone. I didn't hear what he told her but I knew he was talking to a lady. At that point, I decided to take revenge. I had a neighbor who has been eyeing me since I came to the house. He always compliments my dressing. Anytime we meet, he does not forget to tell me how beautiful I am. From the way he talks to me when we meet, I knew that he loves me. I was determined to take revenge on what Joseph was doing to me. On the day he was traveling, I followed him to the airport and made sure he boarded his flight before I left the airport. When I returned home, I went straight to my neighbor's room. I told him that my husband has traveled, so I need someone I could talk to. I said I didn't want to stay in the room alone because it was boring. He went to his fridge and brought me a drink. He was about to return to where he was sitting when I draw him back. I didn't allow him to say anything. I started kissing him roughly. You could see it was what he was craving for with the way he was moaning. He walked me to his bed and we continued until we were all exhausted. Hey, guys, please let me know if this is right or if this is what I should do or please let me have your thoughts on this.